Good morning everyone, my name is Sarah Doherty and I'm the Marketing and Event Coordinator here at Hornbill. I'd like to welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar where we'll be having a presentation on simplifying the challenges of modern ITSM with Hornbill Service Manager with Manish Dave, Relationship Manager, and Connor Hamilton, Product Specialist here at Hornbill. Just to inform you, Delegate Auto will be muted during the presentation to facilitate flow and timekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the GoToMeeting questions facility on the right-hand side of your screen. We will collate questions and answer them at the end of the presentation. Thank you for taking the time to attend. I will now pass you over to Manish and Connor.
Hi there everyone, thanks for joining our webinar today. Myself and Connor will be taking you through an overview of Hornbill Service Manager and how we've helped simplify the challenges of modern service management. I will begin by looking at some of the key challenges with ITSM and how we've addressed them with Service Manager. Connor will then take you through a demo. We'll then close by looking at our commercial offering, some of Hornbill's key differentiators, and our Supportworks to Service Manager migration package. So, to begin with, Hornbill have been in the ITSM industry now for over 20 years, supplying Supportworks, the system all of our attendees are using today. We've looked at some of the key challenges our customers have fed back to us over the years and our experience in the industry, and we've identified a number of key challenges, not just with Supportworks, but with other traditional ITSM software that's out there. The number one challenge we hear about all the time excuse me, are upgrades. They're an expensive, time-consuming process that can be quite painful. We always hear from customers who plan on upgrading their Supportworks system, but for one reason or the other, the project gets delayed, and before you know it, there's a big gap between the version you're on to the latest version, causing a more complex, costly upgrade project. Supportworks is a traditional piece of on-premise software, so Hornbill will release a new version, you download it, you test it, you deploy it to a live environment. But the point here is you have to stop what you're doing in order to upgrade. So we'll show you how we've made life a lot easier in Service Manager. Customization. So a lot of our customers bought Supportworks in the first place because it's so customizable. But the disadvantage is that the more you customize it, the more difficult it becomes to support. And going back to my first point, upgrade, because those customizations often need to be re-implemented or reapplied at the point of an application upgrade. So again, we'll show you how we've made life easier in Service Manager. Complexity. So ITSM is complex enough at the best of times without having a difficult solution behind it. Supportworks is a very powerful tool, but it does require a high degree of knowledge and expertise, which naturally leads on to training, which can be time-consuming and costly. Another situation I always hear about is where customers lose their Supportworks administrator for one reason or the other, and before you know it, there's a gap in knowledge on the service desk. So again, we'll show you how we've addressed that side of things in Service Manager. Usability. So Supportworks is very powerful, but I think if you'd agree that if we compare it to the kind of apps that we use outside of the office, it's not particularly intuitive. For the most part, communication actually happens outside of Supportworks. So you'll be logging a ticket in Supportworks, but you'll be speaking to your colleagues to help you solve problems, whether it's a conversation, whether it's an email, and that knowledge is not stored in Supportworks, it's effectively lost. So we'll show you how we've tapped into that side of things in Service Manager. And reporting is also a challenging area in your current solution. So all of what I've mentioned leads to a high total cost of ownership with upgrades, with consultancy, with training, with the costs you might not think about, such as the cost to host a server, the electricity cost, the cooling costs. And we're all looking at ways to make our spending more efficient. So Hornbill had a light bulb moment, if you like, where we looked at those challenges that we've identified, and we looked at how the world has changed with the mobile and cloud revolutions. And we used that to create a collaboration platform which allows your teams and colleagues to engage with each other in a much more modern, intuitive way where information that matters to you comes to you. On our collaboration platform, various applications are available. Today we'll be focusing on Hornbill Service Manager, but we have various other line of business applications such as Customer Manager and Configuration Manager. These applications can work standalone or side by side to leverage each other. But as I say, today we'll be concentrating on Hornbill Service Manager. So how have we innovated? Well, we've married best practice service management with familiar social and consumer mobile concepts to create a system that allows you to share knowledge and ideas, collaborate no matter where you are, getting more done in less time and from anywhere. Service Manager is all browser based. You can work across any device, whether it's a tablet, a mobile, a laptop or a PC. We also have native iOS and Android applications. You can work from anywhere with language no longer a barrier. So I mentioned earlier, for the most part, in Supportworks, communication actually happens outside of this tool. So you'll log a ticket in Supportworks, but you'll be speaking to your colleagues to help you solve problems, whether it's a conversation by the water cooler or an email or an instant message. And it's that type of conversational knowledge that we refer to as tacit knowledge that's difficult to document, that we're really trying to tap into in Service Manager. And Connor will show you how powerful that can be shortly. Tacit knowledge is in contrast to explicit knowledge, which would be things such as policy documents, procedures, FAQs, the type of documents that you'd store in a knowledge base. And we'll also show you how we've made life simpler in terms of explicit knowledge in Service Manager 2. So I mentioned earlier, Supportworks is a traditional piece of on-premise software, whereby Hornbill will release a new version, you download it, test it, deploy it to a live environment if you're happy with it. But the point being, you have to stop what you're doing in order to carry out the upgrade. Service Manager is delivered as a true native cloud application. We use continuous deployment to keep you up to date with the latest features all of the time. So similar to Facebook or Google, you don't have to stop what you're doing to upgrade, you're just always up to date with the latest features. What that means is there are no more complex and costly upgrades, all updates are automatic, so you're always up to date with the latest features without any service disruption, with customizations that keep on working guaranteed. So on that note, I'll pass you over to Connor to take you through Service Manager in action.
Thank you very much, Manish. Right, firstly, I'm going to go through Service Manager at a high level. So as Sarah mentioned, if there are any questions, please type them into the go-to meeting chat or questions section, and we will address as many as we can at the end. Right, so as Manish mentioned, there are Service Manager is 100% web-based. So I'm going to go through three different portals into the system, if you will. Firstly, the SelfService Portal, which we're currently looking at right now. So I'm going to flip over to the Analyst Portal, and we're going to talk about the administration side of things as well. Again, all web-based. So in this case, I'm using Chrome, but you can use any browser. The only requirement there is IE 10 or above. Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Edge, all absolutely fine. Only IE 10 or above. So this is the Self-Service Portal. This is the view from the end user, the people who will be getting in touch with you about a request or an issue. We support single sign-on, transparent single sign-on. We use the SAML 2 protocol, so ADFS is probably the most common, but any authentication or identity provider solution that supports SAML 2, we can integrate with to set up single sign-on for you and your customers. So I'm logged in as a gentleman called Steve. Now, Steve uses this portal as a one-stop shop for all of his business questions and requests. And I say all business requests because obviously it's traditionally an IT system, but Service Manager is equally at home in the facilities or the finance world, people services. It's completely up to you what you want to use it for, but it's equally at home in every department. So first things first, we have the bulletins flashing across the top. This is just a quick bit of information for the customers from the service owners to let the customers know about what's happening with the services the customer is subscribed to. So the customers will only ever see the bulletins related to the service they're subscribed to. And directly beneath, we have the services split out into 4 tabs. I'm going to go right to left in this case. I've already showed you the category filter to quickly sort through the different services. So if you want to look at facilities services or finance services, there's a quick category filter to sort those out. If you want to look at all the services, they're all shown with nice clear icons, a bit of description, and we can expand each one if we want to. So nice and easy for the end user to see what they need to see, and obviously to get in touch with you nice and easily. We've also labelled them with a few icons in the top right and left of each of the services. So the number in the top right is the number of active requests that the logged in user has against that particular service, and then the icon in the top left is to say that that particular service is currently impacted. As you can see, we can put messages underneath there. In this particular case, this VPN issue has been identified, and there'll be an update here at 4 o'clock. So we can just let the customers know there's an issue before they get in touch. Again, to try and make it clear, if there are impacted services, this tab will appear. And again, it's a quick link just to go straight to those impacted services. And again, the active requests has its own tab as well. If the user wants to, they can set up their favorites. So they will be first and foremost when the user first logs in, most frequently used. It's completely up to each user how they want to set that up, if they want to set it up at all. If the user is brand new to the self-service portal, as you can see, this particular user is subscribed to a lot of services. They may not be 100% sure where to go to find what they're after. There's a mobile service there in the top right, but if the user wasn't sure, we have a federated search. If I type in mobile in the search bar there, this will search all of the services that the logged in user is subscribed to, and it will split out all the results into FAQs, catalogs, requests and services. So it should be nice and easy for a brand new user or someone who's not necessarily familiar with the self-service portal to find what they're looking for. In this case, this particular user might want to request a new mobile device, so we can click straight on that particular catalog item and be asked the relevant questions that you guys want to gather for that particular type of request. I'll tell you what, let's take a hypothetical situation. Let's say Steve is working from home. We've just seen there's an issue with the VPN client. So Steve can't connect to the network. Obviously, he can connect to Service Manager because it's SaaS. He can connect to it anywhere, anytime. But we know there's an issue with the home working service. So Steve can't connect to his VPN and he wants to log a ticket. So if we go into the home working service straight away, obviously we've already seen it on the bulletins across on the home page, but we have the bulletin there at the top, which is fixed because it's related to this service, and we have 4 tabs describing this service in a bit more detail. So first of all, because there is a known issue, the service desk have published that known issue to the self-service portal. The aim of this is obviously to try and get customers to be informed before they get in touch. So the service desk is saying, we know there's an issue, here is a workaround. So Steve can try this workaround, hopefully that will work and he'll be able to go on doing what he needs to do at home. He can still let the service desk know that he is being affected with this Me Too button. So rather than going through and logging a ticket, he can click the Me Too button. The service desk will know he, as well as anybody else who has clicked the Me Too button, is impacted by this particular issue. Steve will be included on any communication from the service desk about this issue, and obviously it will be connected as an interested party to that particular issue. So rather than having many tickets to deal with, the service desk have the one ticket to deal with and many interested parties. If Steve still wants to find out a bit more information, we can publish frequently asked questions to the self-service portal. These can take many forms: hyperlinks, text, videos. It's completely up to you how you want to publish these to the portal. People can click, was this helpful, was this not, how many times this particular piece of information has been viewed, and obviously all of this, once it's been added, can be reported on. Any active requests against this service can be shown under the Request tab, and if Steve still wants to log a ticket, this particular service has been split out into 3 different catalog items. Request a VPN client setup, request a callback, and there is an issue, unable to connect to the company's network. Each one of these may potentially ask a different set of questions. Obviously, it's completely what you want to ask behind each one of these catalog items that you select or set up even, and then each one could potentially kick off its own fulfillment process. Obviously, the complexity is completely hidden at the moment. Steve doesn't need to know what's an incident and what's a request, but obviously when you set this up, it will be nice and clear from your point of view. In this case, I'm going to go with the VPN access issue, where we're experiencing something with our VPN, and because it's the VPN access catalog item, we've been asked what is the issue you're experiencing, error codes, etc. So hopefully your customers will give you a bit more information than cannot connect, but just in the interest of time, I'll keep it simple. But as you can see, it's lovely and easy for the end user to get in touch with you, to get what they want to get in touch with you about across to you. This second question are all the assets that are linked directly to Steve, but if Steve wanted to log a ticket against the shared asset, so one that's based on his site or potentially the entire CMDB, we can easily search for that. So a shared printer, for example. It wouldn't be linked directly to Steve, but Steve might consume it and therefore might need to log a ticket against it. In this case, it's a VPN access issue, so it's most likely Steve's laptop, so I'll link Steve's laptop and hit finish. There's a brief validation on the right hand side, and it will come back with IN201. Now we've prefixed this with IN for incident, but you can prefix that with whatever you want. And straight to the top there you can see the heads up display to show the end user what's happened as part of this particular fulfillment process and what needs to happen as part of this particular fulfillment process. Obviously this is your fulfillment process, whatever you want to happen, but you can choose whether you want the customer on the self-service portal to see this for themselves or not. It's obviously just to keep customers informed about what's going on without having them chase you for an update. They can see it themselves. Anything that's been asked and answered are all in the collapsible panels directly beneath the process there. If Steve wanted to update, there's a nice clear box, oops, update, and that will go into the timeline, again all in chronological order. And if Steve wants to update a file, we can drag and drop, or we can go via the old-fashioned way and upload a document like that. So nice and easy for the end user to get in touch with you. Obviously all of this is very customizable. You can set this up how you want to, you can ask what you want, and each area can potentially kick off its own process if you want it to. So that is the self-service side of things. I'm going to flip over now to the analyst side of things. Again, this is all Chrome. I'm logged in as a gentleman called Graham in this case, purely because Graham has the best rights for this particular demonstration. And the first thing you see is the news feed, and this is the collaborative core that Manish touched upon in the opening presentation. But first of all, I'm going to talk about the service configuration, and I just want to point out that incident we just logged, incident 201, we just logged on the self-service portal as Steve, is in Graham's notification queue. Now Graham could receive these on his phone. We've got a native iOS and Android app, as Manish mentioned. He could get them as a desktop notification. He could potentially get them via email. It's completely up to you how you want to how you want your analyst to receive these notifications. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the service configuration first. Now everything on the left here is basically a different application. Each of them can potentially be used on their own, or they could be used together to leverage each other. But this is the Service Manager application itself. And as I mentioned, we're going to go into how we set up all of these services. I will keep with the home working service, just because we saw it from the end user point of view on the portal. And when I click in, you'll probably see the standard kind of stuff that you'd expect on a request catalog, request configuration bit. This particular service is in the catalog status. It's visible on the portal. And we have the subscriptions here in the bottom right. In this case, we have 3 named users, but it could be an entire company, an entire department, internal, external, individual. It's completely up to you who you want to be able to consume this service. We've added the concept of supporting teams in the Service Manager, and this will give you a natural partition. If you want it to be partitioned, obviously you could potentially have HR, facilities and finance as you've seen on the portal. It'll be nice and simple for the end user, but with this supporting teams functionality, it will naturally partition the services and anything to do with those services. So obviously only these teams can support anything to do with this home working service. So the facilities team won't see anything to do with this service. They won't see tickets, services, anything related. It's up to you how you want that to work. We can further lock it down if you want to by making a particular owner, the service owner, in this case Graham, and make it private. So facilities, HR, whatever the case may be, cannot see anything to do with this service, including reports, searching, request lists, even the service configuration. If it's private, only the owner and the supporting teams will see anything to do with this, and it's all naturally partitioned. There's no consultancy required. And as you can see in the top right, this particular service is currently impacted. So that's where we put the message underneath if we want to let the customers know on the portal. So moving along, the request configuration tab is the main part of this service configuration. So the top row, we've split out the different call classes, and then underneath each call class you can have many catalog items. So under incident we have that VPN access catalog item that we just logged a ticket against on the self-service portal. Under the service request call class we have 2 different catalog items. Each one of these, if I click on the configuration for each one of them, could ask its own set of questions, which we call progressive capture. I'm going to come to that in a second just to show you how that's set up. And then each one can potentially kick off its own fulfillment process. We can limit it to just the analysts that can potentially log against this particular catalog item, or we could stretch it out to both the self-service and the analyst side of things as well, if you want to. As Manish mentioned, all the translations are out of the box, so if you did have other languages, we can easily add a translation, select the language, let's just say French, hit translate, and there it is for you. Nice and easy for everybody to work in their own language, if that's a factor for you guys. So, nice and easy to build these in. Just to quickly show you the rest of the service configuration, any active requests will be shown on the Request tab. Any assets that may underpin this particular service are shown under the Assets tab. Any frequently asked questions, they're set up here, and you can see how many likes, dislikes, how many views each each FAQ has had. And the bulletins that are flashing across the top to the subscribers to the service are all configured under the Bulletins tab. Manish also mentioned it's a continuous deployment system. We use a continuous deployment methodology, so we're adding new features all the time, and one of the new features we've recently added is this Configuration Explorer, Configuration Manager, if you will. So you'll see this icon on most records in the system, and this will automatically link, or automatically show the links across the system. So if I click on this one, this is the service record that we're looking at. That will show you all of the links across the system to that particular service. So we can see there's different calls, and there are a couple of assets. Those are the two underpinning assets that we saw on the Assets tab in the service configuration. If I wanted to clear the noise down, if I wanted to get rid of the requests, I can click this icon in the top right, and those requests will disappear. You can see there's bidirectional dependency, so very useful for impact analysis. That service depends on these two assets, but if we wanted to go the other way as well, we simply select the type of dependency and the impact if something happened to one of those. So nice and easy to see. We can expand further if you want to. So there are 4 assets linked to that particular CI as well, and you know it's completely up to you how you want to see this information. The dependency is all set there as well, and it's all automatically generated. So you'll see that icon the entire way across the system. Right, so that's the service configuration. The next thing I want to show you, just before I get into the actual ticket management side of things, is how we set up those processes and I want to say self-service wizards, but we call them progressive capture questions now, basically. So this is the administration side, first of all, and again I'm using Chrome. And I'm going to go to the Service Manager application, and as I mentioned, the progressive capture engine is the questions, the information we're gathering to be able to deal with that ticket, and the business processes are the fulfillment process that you guys want to kick off. So first things first, if I click into an incident process, you can see it's lovely and easy to see what's going on. There shouldn't be much training. If you walked into the business today and you had this process in your system, it wouldn't take very long to figure out what it's doing. Each blue node is an automatic action, and based on the result of a particular action, it can branch off down any route of this particular process. So in this case, as soon as a ticket is logged against this particular incident process, an email gets sent, is assigned to a team. Is there a priority on the call? If there is, that's when we start the timer. If not, we wait for an analyst, wait for the analyst to give it to priority, and that's when we start the timer. So you guys probably know, using Supportworks, you have to have a response timer and a fixed timer against every ticket. You have to send an email when an action happens, whether it be logged, updated, resolved, whatever the case may be. As you can see here with this, it's non-prescriptive. The timer doesn't start until we have a priority against the ticket. So whether it be we wait for an analyst, obviously that could be an hour before an analyst picks up this particular ticket, that's when the timer starts. It's completely up to you how you want this process to work. It's very easy to build. It's all drag and drop. So at that particular point, if I wanted a human task or an authorization, it's very, very easy to build that in. And as I mentioned, it's very easy to see what's going on. This particular process, we have 3 different stages: clarification, resolution, and acceptance. So just to click through, each part of this can have its own sub-process, if you will. You can copy these. It's lovely and easy to build, lovely and easy to see what's going on. A very good example is actually the change process. I don't know if you guys are using change at the moment, but this particular process has 4 stages. And this second stage is a very good example. There's an impact assessment, and there are 3 possible outcomes. You can define however many outcomes you want. In this case, if there is a high or medium impact, then we need a backup plan, where if it's low, it will go straight down, gather some more change details, risk and impact information, and then go to authorization. That authorization is probably quite similar to Supportworks in that we can have a named user, or we could have a variable of some kind if you want to, but there is a 100% weighting in this particular case. If you imagine these 3 are the cab, each one has 100% weighting. Whoever gets there first will authorize a request against this particular process. So that is the business process side of things. The flip side of this, as I mentioned, is obviously the gathering of the information. Self-service Widgets in Supportworks, if you use those. But the main focus of these is obviously to gather all the information that you guys need to be able to deal with a particular request without having to chase the customer for further information. So this new request progressive capture is a very good example. It's a decision-based system, so very similar to the self-service Widgets again, but as you can see, it's lovely and easy to see, lovely and easy to build. It's all drag and drop, all graphical. Each blue node is a question, and it's, as I mentioned, a decision-based system, so the end user or the analyst, this is exactly the same engine for the analyst logging a ticket. The users will only ever see what they need to see based on their previous answer. Now, we've taken a leaf out of some of your favorite consumer applications, so anybody, for example, would be able to walk in off the street and book a holiday online without any training, without, it should be nice and easy to book a holiday online, or find car insurance using one of the insurance comparison websites, for example. One question at a time. The user will only ever see what they need to see based on their previous answer. So we've taken a leaf out of that book, and as you can see, customer search is internal or external. If it's external, we find the organization, and it could potentially be come over here and be a request. It could be an incident. It could come over and be a finance related query, in which case we want to ask what's the type, what's the invoice number, what's any additional information. It could be a new starter related question. So obviously it's lovely and easy to build, as I mentioned, but it's very, very quick and simple for the end users to get in touch with you. One question at a time, minimal training required, and very, very simple to use. So hopefully that would increase the adoption rate on your self-service portal. So that's the gathering of the information. How does that actually look in the service management world in Service Manager? So as I mentioned, this is the Service Manager icon, the Service Manager application. We have this colourful character Harry popping out to show users about new features. Because we've got this continuous deployment methodology, we've got new features being released all the time. We have 2 or 3 releases a week. So rather than bombarding our users with long PDFs or sets of instructions, we have Harry Hornbill popping out just to say you can now share your defined views with other Service Manager users and teams. So nice and simple. Obviously we can give you further information if you need it, but nice and easy. There's no long sets of instructions to follow or anything like that. So this is the request list. This is very similar to the service desk view in Supportworks. At the moment we're looking at all of Graham's incidents, but Graham has the rights to see requests and all of these different call classes. So if Graham wants to see all of Graham's changes, we can. If we want to see all of Graham's tickets regardless of call class, we can. Graham may be a member of different teams, so if you want to see all of the changes in the change team, you can flip over to the change team and there they are. Or if you want to see all of the tickets in all of Graham's teams, we can. So lovely and easy to see what you want to see. We have a quick filter in the top left, so if I wanted to filter all of that information into just VPN related tickets, I can type in VPN and there are all the VPN related tickets. If I wanted to see all of Brian's tickets, I can spell Brian, I can type in Brian and there are all the tickets where Brian is the owner. We can search on all of this, so if I want to see all the tickets where Anna is the customer, I can type in Anna and there are all the tickets where Anna is the customer. So all of that can be searched on, but that's a quick filter to quickly sort through lots of information. There also may be a need for a more permanent view. So under this Views tab in the top right, we can set up a view such as active high priority incidents, for example. Now, with this kind of view, firstly if I click on it, these are the active high priority incidents. In Supportworks, you would need to know a bit about the database, so what to filter on to get this kind of view, where to go in the data dictionary to set up this kind of view. We've listened to that feedback from Supportworks and we've addressed that with this simple clause builder. So each analyst can build their own views. if they want to. You can obviously share these views, as Harry popped up to tell us, but priority is high, request type is incident, status is open. There's no SQL needed, there's no access to the data dictionary needed, or whereabouts in the data dictionary to edit. It's lovely and easy to see, lovely and easy to build, and each analyst could potentially build their own view. So as long as the analyst knows what they want to see, so in this case, let's say owner is Graham. Lovely and easy to build these views. Yeah, so lovely and easy to use, lovely and easy to build, lovely and easy for each analyst to create what they want to see. And then if a team manager, for example, has a particular view they want to share with their team, it's again as simple as that. If they want to share it with a specific user or anybody who supports a particular service, again, very, very easy to do so. Off the back of this, obviously this particular view will give us the list that we see in the background there, but there may be a need to see that same information represented in a different way. So off the back of this view, we can set up our own personal charts. So these active high priority incidents, where are they sat by team? You can see there's 20 in the first line, there's only 3 in the second line. Who owns these active high priority incidents? Daniel has 9 of these active high priority incidents, and actually 7 of these don't have an owner at all, so why not? So we can set up many of these charts off the back of one of those simple views, and what that will give you is a button in the top right to switch to your personal dashboard. Again, each analyst can create their own dashboard, and this will give you the same information but just represented in a different way. As I mentioned, each analyst can obviously decide how they want to see each of these, so they want it big, small, medium, or they can move them around nice and easy. But probably most importantly, so again, these active high priority incidents, those 7 tickets that don't have an owner, I can click straight into them and see the detail behind those. There they are, lovely and easy to see. At any point we can export the list. That will go straight into CSV. We can refresh the list, we can flip back to our home view, or if we're particularly taken on the view we're looking at, we can set that view as our home view. All of the columns are very similar to the service desk view in Supportworks. We can filter and sort on just by clicking on the title there, but if we want to change the columns, we can click on this cog icon in the top right, and let's say we want to see when the SLA is due, and we want to see that second on the list. You click the relevant button and drag it to where we want to see it. We can even distinguish between the columns that we don't want to see on a tablet or a phone. So lovely and easy to see, lovely and easy to build. I'll save that. So there's our resolve by column. Just before I get on to logging a ticket from the analyst point of view, I just wanted to point out the shared mailbox functionality. So I'll be honest, very similar to Supportworks. We will connect with your mailbox, and any email to that mailbox on your Exchange server or mail server, whatever it may be, will be imported into Service Manager. And from there, we can set up autoresponder rules, very similar to Supportworks, so automatically log and update tickets, but we can also raise requests directly from email. So this will be the other way of the customer being able to get in touch. They can go through the Self-Service Portal, they can send an email, or obviously they can give you a call. So, as I mentioned, a very common problem we've had, or a very common piece of feedback we've had from Supportworks, is that if a customer is on the phone, you don't necessarily know what they're calling about before they tell you. So a common situation with Supportworks is, let's say Steve is calling, you pick up the phone, you say it's Steve, you'd open an incident form, you fill out Steve's details, and then he will tell you what he's calling about. At that point you realise actually it's not an incident, it's a service request. So do you copy the details out? Do you ask Steve to repeat himself? As I mentioned, it's a very, very common piece of feedback. So if Graham did know that Steve is calling about an incident and Graham has the rights to log an incident, we can. But if Graham didn't know what Steve was calling about, he didn't even know it was Steve on the phone, we have this raise new button. So if the phone is ringing now, we can hit raise new. Who's calling? It's Steve. Firstly, have we got the right Steve? We can customize what we see on the right hand side just to make sure analysts know they've got the right person. Is Steve calling about an active request? If so, here's an update. If not, we hit next. There's Harry Hornbill again. So that's the category filter we saw on the Self-Service Portal. These are all the services that Steve, that particular user, is currently subscribed to. So if let's say the Mac support, we have the catalog items underneath, and again, each one of these will kick off its own set of questions and potentially its own fulfillment process. In this case, I'm going to keep with a kind of general catch-all desktop support. So there aren't any catalog items underneath this particular issue. So we know who's calling, we know the service he's calling about, and then what's the problem? VPN issue. I'll keep it the same. I'll keep it the same, nice and easy. So one question at a time. You can see it's very, very simple for analysts and end users to get in touch. At that point, we know who's calling, we know what he's calling about, so then we have enough information to classify this particular request. So the decision-based system we talked about in the administration side, if this is a change, we're asked to upload a document. Whereas if I go back and say, no, actually this is an incident, we're asked to provide a category. So a VPN access issue under network, VPN access, perfect category. So lovely and easy for the analyst to be able to log a ticket with Steve on the phone, one question at a time. They will only ever see what they need to see based on their previous answer. So in priority, are we going to link an asset? Let's link the laptop. So again, this is a VPN issue. And as I mentioned, we can search through the entire CMDB. So a shared asset, for example, a server, VPN gateway, perfect. So it wouldn't necessarily be linked directly to Steve, but because Steve is using it indirectly, he could potentially report an issue about that particular asset. So I'll link that VPN gateway and hit finish. We have the breadcrumb trail on the right hand side, so it's lovely to see what's been asked and what's been answered, brief bit of validation and a brief summary. And again, we've prefixed this particular reference with IN, but you can prefix that with whatever you want. And so this is the ticket once it's been logged, and the heads up display is there across the top. We briefly touched on this particular process in the administration tool, but as you can see, we've just logged it. The email has already been sent. It's already been assigned to the first line support team, and the priority has already been set. So that timer is already ticking. The only thing we haven't done is allocate an analyst. So because we need to allocate an analyst, the focus has been put on the assign tab so that whoever opens this particular ticket will either assign themselves or another member of the first line support team. So this has gone into the first line support team queue. I'm logged in as Graham, so I'm going to assign it to myself. And as you can see, that checkpoint has been ticked. We've moved to the second stage and we've been assigned a task to resolve this desktop issue. Unfortunately, there is still an element of manual intervention. So when Graham has an update, he can also, very similar to the SelfService Portal, post an update, and that will go into the timeline, again, in chronological order. All of these posts we can limit to just the service desk or share them with the SelfService Portal if we want to. Again, a very common piece of feedback is that if we wanted to share a file, we want to share a screenshot or something like that, we'd have to save the file, upload the file, whether it be on the SelfService Portal or the Supportworks client. With Service Manager, if Graham wanted to send Steve a screenshot, we can paste it straight into the ticket. So we can say, okay, Steve, this is what I'm seeing, update that, are you seeing the same? That will go straight into the ticket, and Steve can pick that up on the SelfService Portal or his mobile or wherever he may be seeing this. Nowadays we have resources available to us that we didn't have when Supportworks was created. For example, Google. Now, I'll be honest, probably one of the greatest resources we have. So rather than trying to recreate anything, we can simply plug straight into it. So with these custom button functionality, we can pass through variables from the record we're looking at through to a resource like Google. So as you can see, we've got YouTube there as well, but I'll go left to right. So if I click on Google, that will straight away search for a VPN issue, and you say, right, reset VPN, copy that, paste it in, here you go, Steve, this may sort out your problem. And as I mentioned with Harry Hornbill, people might prefer to watch videos nowadays than read a long set of instructions. So again, we can just pass through a variable through to YouTube, have a look at this video. I said advert anyway. We can take the abbreviated URL across the bottom, or we can take the long one across the top, and we can paste that straight in to the ticket there, and Steve will be able to watch that straight from the SelfService Portal or his mobile, wherever he may be looking at this particular update from. So just to show you that, we can play that straight from the ticket. There's no opening other pages or open other tabs or anything like that. So moving along, we can schedule a callback, we can attach a file, we can link requests, we can send emails. With the emails, we've got the similar multi-clip functionality. I know a lot of customers like this, just to put a bit of preset text in there. And as you can see there, we can share this, but we can manage all of these, whether regardless of user or team. We can share these with particular users or teams if we want to. Change the customer, assign adding connections. So this is the Me Too button on the self-service portal. If you imagine another customer is impacted by exactly the same issue, or potentially a team manager wants to see how a request for their team member is getting on, or a secretary on behalf of the CEO. The functionality is to include many connections onto a particular request, so all of those connections will be included on any update about that main request, and obviously the service desk can see how many people have been impacted by that particular or requesting that particular thing, whatever it might be. Change the priority, look at the assets, look at the boards, which I'll come back to in a bit more detail, resolve, cancel, look at any links, so that Explorer icon again, and obviously print out any details, nice and easy. On the right hand side we have a few extra bits. We talked about the task very briefly, but just to show you what we can do in this task, if I edit that, this is a process created task. This is automatically created as part of this process, but that plus we can add them on the fly as well if we want to. But as you can see, we can assign it to a different user or team. It needs to start on a particular date and time. It's due on a particular date and time. We can add a checklist or attach a file. So the checklist, I'll be honest, I'm a big fan of. So if this is going to networks, we can say, right, networks, you have these two things to do. I'll keep it simple just for time. Save that, and the networks can pick this up again on their phone or their activities queue, however they want to see this. And they can say, right, I've done one of these two things. So because one of those two things, an automatic progress bar has been created against that task, so Graham can see the progress against that task without having to go chasing whoever the team are that's dealing with it for an update. You can just see at a glance how far through that particular task they are. Manish mentioned the collaborative core and how each of these different aspects can leverage each other throughout the system, and one of those is the concept of being able to drop in a subject matter expert to a request. So there's a VPN issue going on. We know there's an issue going on, but if Graham wants to see, has a change been raised for this particular VPN issue, we can add in the change manager. Now Rosemary, she doesn't normally have the rights to see incidents because she's the change manager. She only works with changes, but because Graham has added Rosemary in as a member in this case, Rosemary's rights have been elevated to see this particular incident. She'll have a notification to say you've been added as a member, and then Graham can then tag Rosemary and say, hey Rosemary, can you take a look at this? So again, Rosemary can pick this up on her phone. She can come in and say, no, there's no change raised for this. She can like it. Just work on it together. And again, you don't need to mess around with the rights because Rosemary has been added in as a member. Her rights have been elevated to see this particular request. I mentioned very briefly that we can link requests, but we can also search through the existing requests. So we know there's an issue with the VPN, so we can search for VPN related tickets. There's obviously quite a few there, and that I'd imagine would grow as well. So we can filter that back. So we want to see, is there a problem? We know there's not a change. Is there a problem already raised for this particular thing? Obviously we know there is because we saw it on the self-service portal. So we can filter it back on the call class, the status, and the service if we want to. So if I search again on that, we have one open problem which we can then link to this particular ticket. Because we've linked it, this solution icon has appeared, and that solution icon will give the analyst a potential workaround for this VPN issue. The analyst can come in and say, yep, that's the solution, or no, that's not quite the one for us. Now, I mentioned we have the concept of boards. I'm going to very quickly talk about those. This is basically a graphical representation of any particular area of the system. A very good example is the change management board. This is very similar to a Trello type system, if any of you guys use that, but we split out this particular process, this change management process, into the different stages of the process. So it's a helicopter view or a bird's eye view for a change manager or a service delivery manager to quickly see the state of play with a particular area of the system. So in this case, the change management process, all of these we can drag and drop if you want to. There's a quick color code to see which ones have been cancelled, which ones have been resolved. But we would recommend that you let the process take care of this for you. So at any particular point in time, the process will move each of these requests across the board. So anybody who clicks in will see an accurate, up-to-date representation of where everything is against the particular process. We can see the owners if we want to. So if I want to quickly see all of Graham's tickets on this particular board, I can click on Graham's face there, and these are all of Graham's tickets. The view is limited just to Graham's tickets. So very easy to do. This is an example of a process-related board, but we could also do a time-related board. So this is all the incidents that are about to breach, so the ones that are breaching today, the ones that are breaching in 2 hours, 30 minutes, and the ones that have breached. Again, we can see the owners, so I won't use Graham again, I'll click on Daniel in this case. So Daniel, one of these tickets has already breached, one is about to breach, what's going on? We use it for developments, problem management, procurement is probably another good example. Someone wants a new iPhone, it will go to their customer manager for approval, it will get ordered, and it will get delivered, obviously as long as it goes through the authorization. So lots of different things that we can do there. And the collaborative core that we opened on, this is the news feed. This is what each analyst would see when they first log in. And what's actually happening here is the information that the logged in user is interested in is coming to the logged in user. You don't need to go looking for that information basically. So in this case, Graham he's on the cab. We saw that in the process side of things. So he's a member of this change management workspace. Because he's a member of that workspace, this new change has been approved by the cab, and the process has pushed out an update to that workspace. So when he first logs in, if you imagine Rosemary is currently offline, when she first logs in, she can see this particular change has just been approved by the cab, and the process has then gone and updated it accordingly, so it's been implemented, the review has been complete, and it's finished. There's no further action required. So Graham obviously sees that automatically. Documents, or more changes in that case, major incidents, incident 93, he's following this particular incident, so if I click into that very quickly, he's not the customer, he's not the owner, but he has a vested interest in this particular ticket for whatever reason. It could be one of his team members, let's say, he's got to see what's going on, and the reason he's seeing an update on his newsfeed is because he's following it. So similar to the watched calls view in Supportworks, with this follow button, basically any updates to this ticket, we pushed it directly to Graham's newsfeed. So again, the information is coming to Graham. As I mentioned, all of these are split out into different workspaces. There could be hundreds of these workspaces, but each analyst will only join the ones they want to join. So their updates will only be populated with the workspaces they are subscribed to. So we've seen the change management workspace. Another good example is the first line FAQs workspace. In this case, James Ford, who is on the first line support team, is trying, well, he's got an issue from one of his customers, he's getting an error message, he's posted up an image, and then people are coming back and commenting and saying this could be the answer. We mentioned the language capability. If that's interesting for you, we've had this translate button, so each person can work in their language, and then each other user can see whatever they're saying in their own language at the click of that button. Now the point of this is, by asking and answering these questions in this kind of open forum, that information is being captured and it's there to be reused. So in a year's time, if someone else had the exact same issue, they could search the workspaces of the global search at the top, they'll find this particular post, they'll find 2 answers, and in a year's time they'll probably go with the one that 4 people have voted on and validated that particular piece of knowledge. They'll probably try Pablo's answer before Pierre's. Now, as I mentioned, this information is reusable. So if I search TrueSoft VPN, we can put that straight into the workspace at the top, sorry, the global search at the top. We can search all the workspaces for TrueSoft VPN related posts. We can, there may be a lot after a year, so we can filter that back based on the date it was posted, who posted it, and the workspace it was posted in. So we've just copied that from the first line FAQs workspace, so I'll search that, and this is the post that we've just copied from. So as I mentioned, that information is a very natural way to ask and answer questions, and by doing so, that information is there to be reused. So that subject matter expert, Brian in this case, will answer it once, and he doesn't need to answer it every other day or however many times it gets asked, because it's there for people to find themselves. He can focus on the things he needs to focus on. So this is a new way of working, if you will. This is a collaborative core. This is the basis of all of these service manager systems, and obviously, as you can see, it will plug into the service manager side of things. The flip side of the knowledge is document manager, which is more of an area for more structured knowledge. So as you can see, Word documents, PDFs, you can create your own documents if you want. All of these documents can be sorted into different libraries or collections, and obviously the marketing documents will be shared with the marketing team, for example, and each one of these we can share with different people. We can comment on, we can keep a timeline of everything that's happened against this particular document. And as Rosemary says there, we have different versions, so we can keep revisions of each of these documents and obviously open each revision and only publish the one that we want to publish when we're ready to publish. We can keep tasks, we can keep tags against all of these documents. So what we're trying to address here is all of those network shares with dodgy naming conventions. You're not 100% sure if that file is the latest version. With this, because it's all in the central place, you know it is. You can see exactly what's happened, you can see exactly who's seeing it, we can set review dates, and it's lovely and easy to see the content and share the content. There's a lot to discuss there, and also just the interest in time, I'm going to flip over to the final part, which is the reporting side of things. Now we have the standard kind of Supportworks reporting. There are 3 levels in Service Manager. The first one being the personal dashboards we saw on the service desk view. So each analyst can build those, nice and easy to build and see what they want to see. The reports are more of a kind of Supportworks related report suite. So for those who want to get into the data, want to join tables, want to filter back based on particular criteria. And we've also created this 3rd level, advanced analytics. So I'm going to quickly touch on this. I'm going to start with the trending engine. We call it measures. Essentially, we set a target, we set a measure, we set a target, and this will go away and gather data compared to that measure each month, week, day, whatever you want to have it repeatedly check on. Incidents resolved daily, incidents resolved outside a fix per month. You can see the scorecard, when it was gathered, and obviously it's very clear traffic lights indication to see how we're doing against that particular measure. We have a spark line to see the trend of how we're doing against that particular measure. Once we have these measures, we can then put them onto widgets, and a widget is a bit of information. So you can take many different types, charts, counters, data lists, completely up to you how you want to see that bit of information. This is an example of the annual comparison of the monthly tickets raised. So again, once you've got your measures, lovely and easy to build these. And once we've got many widgets, we can put them onto a dashboard. I'll tell you what, rather than show you a dashboard, I'll show you many dashboards in the form of a slideshow. In this case, we have 6 dashboards flipping around every 5 seconds. All of these are just URLs, so you could potentially grant specific users access to these dashboards, provide them the URL, and they can check it themselves whenever they're ready just by clicking on the link. So just to show you what's possible, this could be on a screen above the service desk, or it could potentially be as part of a meeting, or obviously people can just check it themselves whenever they want to see the latest information. So as you can see, there are lots of different widgets. This is just a collection of widgets on each dashboard, and you can show what you want to show per dashboard. That is everything from me. That was a very high-level view. So any questions, obviously feel free to type it in the questions chart. We'll try and address as many as we can just before I pass you back to Manish. But if any of you want to see any of this in a bit more detail, get in touch with your relationship manager, and we'll set up a more one-to-one demo, and we'll go through it in much more detail, and we'll focus on the things that you want to see. So thank you very much. I'm going to pass you back to Manish.
Thank you, Connor. That was a great demo. So just going to finish up now, guys, by looking at some of Hornbill's key differentiators, our commercial offering, and our Supportworks to Service Manager migration package. First of all, Hornbill have 3 core values that I'd like to share with you. Customer first. We're committed to working with our customers and being responsive to your needs. Partnership through collaboration means we work in partnership with our customers and value your feedback, whether it's through our forums, our user groups, or any other interactions with us. And quality not compromised. We aim to be world-class in everything we do, whether it's our people, our processes, and our technology. For the reason of quality not compromised, we actually don't offer any fixed-term contract with Hornbill Service Manager, which I'll come on to shortly. So we want you to be 100% satisfied that this system is right for you, whether it's your language requirements, your reporting requirements, your process requirements, whatever it may be. And so for that reason, we're doing something quite different to other vendors in our marketplace. We're offering a 100% risk-free 30-day satisfaction guarantee. What that means is you put us to the test. We'll give you your own instance of Service Manager, free of charge for 30 days. You can try it out in your own environment, with your own data, with your own integrations. We'll assign a product specialist to you who will implement the solution the way you want it and configure it the way you need it. Your product specialist will train you up on the solution to give you the skills and expertise you need to manage the system going forward. And at the end of the 30 days, the choice is yours. You can either start subscribing or walk away without any obligation. The reason we offer this free of charge 30-day evaluation is because we want to remove the risk from you, our customers. So how does Hornbill stand out from the crowd? First and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, this is a true native cloud application, which means all of your updates are automatic, there are no more upgrades, your customizations keep working, so you're always up to date with the latest features without service disruption. You concentrate on service delivery, let Hornbill take care of the rest. Price for life is a guarantee that we offer our customers, whereby the pricing level you sign up to will stay the same for the entire length of time you're a customer. So if we raise our prices, you won't be affected. You'll also get automatic discounts over time through the effects of inflation. You'll also continue to just get more and more value from the solution as we add more features and functionality to the platform, which you'll make the most of without paying anything extra for. Train for life is another guarantee we offer, whereby, as I mentioned, we will train up your solution champion as part of our free of charge implementation. But if they leave, if they're promoted, if they retire, whatever it may be, we'll train up the replacement free of charge, and we'll continue to do so for the entire length of time you're a customer. This will avoid the situation I mentioned earlier, whereby your administrator leaves the organization and there's a gap in knowledge on your service desk. And I mentioned earlier, quality not compromised, and for that reason we offer no contract tie-in for Hornbill Service Manager, because we want happy customers, not contractually bound customers. So you can cancel your contract at any time. And I'm often asked, why do Hornbill actually do this? And it's quite simple. It forces us to ensure we're offering a great value, quality service, otherwise our customers could simply leave us. So how much does it cost? So we offer a simple, scalable pricing model, which starts at £42.50 per user per month, with a volume discount applied, so the more users you have, the lower the unit cost. We already have a variety of customers who have moved over to Service Manager. As you can see, they come from various industries and sectors. Two that I wanted to mention in particular. Firstly, Aylesbury Vale District Council, who moved from Supportworks to Service Manager last year. They did this as part of a move to an infrastructure-free environment. They actually won the Best Small Service Desk Award at the SDI Awards in April this year. iDocs are a supplier of software and services to the UK public sector. They also moved to Service Manager from Supportworks last year. One of their key concerns with the transfer of historical call data, we actually moved close to 10,000 records over the course of a weekend for them from Supportworks to Service Manager. So just to wrap up, as a Supportworks customer, we'll go over and beyond the free of charge 30-day evaluation and trial that I mentioned earlier. We'll actually migrate any call data over if you require it from Supportworks to Service Manager. We'll also credit back any unused subscriptions or support and maintenance from your Supportworks contract. You qualify as long as you're a customer with an active contract. So if you do want to move forward or you are interested, please do let your relationship manager know as soon as possible. There is limited availability. We are experiencing a very high demand for the migration to Service Manager. We are also considering phasing out this free of charge migration service, so please do let us know as soon as possible or if this is of interest to you. So we've received various questions which we will begin with now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right, I'll go, obviously we're running out of time, but I'll go top to bottom. We'll try and address as many of these as we can. Firstly, Andre, audio sounds good. Thank you very much, Andre. Secondly, Julian, Welsh language for self-service. Yes, absolutely we do. And the reason I know that is because one of our marketing team actually speaks Welsh and has his profile internally set as Welsh. And Sod's Law, I don't have it enabled in this particular system, but yes, if you set up a one-to-one demo with one of us guys, I will drag Mr. Wigley in to tell you how he uses self-service and all the portals, in fact, with Welsh. So absolutely, yes, that's fully supported. What do I have to migrate my existing call data? We don't see a need to move all of it. We only want to move open request. Absolutely, no problem at all. The way that works is it's basically a script that sits on your Supportworks server. As long as it can access the internet, we can query whatever you want within that particular set of call data, and you can move just the open ones, just the last 6 months, or all of them. It's completely up to you how you want that to work.
We've received a question, where are your data centers, and more importantly, where will my data be held? All the data is held in a geographical legal entity that's associated with your instance. So if your instance is in Europe, your data remains in Europe. If your instance is in North America, all your data will remain in North America. Just for your information, our European data center at the moment is in Maidenhead in the UK.
Sorry, we have a couple of questions about the API side of things, and I was trying to remember the URL, but we have a fully documented list of APIs that you are more than welcome to use on your instance, and I think, oh, there it is. Yeah, perfect. So these are the APIs that you are more than welcome to use on your instance. They're fully documented. They're split out per application or potentially across the entire system if you want to. If I just click into the Service Manager, you're more than welcome to check these out. And each one of these are documented. Each one of them will tell you what's required and what the outputs will be. So in a word, yes, we have a fully documented list of APIs that you're more than welcome to use. You're more than welcome to check them out and let us know if you have any questions. All right.
There's one here. We want to make the move to Service Manager, but my Supportworks renewal is due. What should I do? Well, we'd encourage you to renew your Supportworks contract, because once you make the move to Service Manager, we will credit back any unused support and maintenance from your Supportworks instance anyway. So please do go ahead and renew, and once you're ready to move, we will credit back your support and maintenance.
Brilliant. All right, there are a couple more, but we've been shouted at. We're 2 minutes over apparently, so we'll get back to all the other questions that we haven't addressed. As I mentioned, if you want to see anything in a bit more detail, feel free to get in touch with any of us or your relationship manager, and we'll set up a one-to-one demo as soon as possible. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Thank you, Manish and Connor, for taking us through that presentation. I hope everyone found it useful. If you have any additional questions, please do not hesitate to contact me or your relationship manager. Finally, thank you everyone for your time today. Goodbye.